Hi everyone, and welcome to Life After Graduation's Leadership Series. My name's Alex, and today we've got three awesome guests who's come onto the show to talk about sports leadership. And today's special episode will be on table tennis. And a lot of the viewers may know that I've been a part of the table tennis community for many years through my university days, and I've met some awesome speakers along the way. So today I've got three special guests with me. I've got Rahul, Sam, and Jorel, who is going to be talking about this wonderful topic of sports leadership with me today. Hi, guys.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So to get us started, would everyone like to introduce yourselves and what you guys do or study and how you've got involved with sports leadership in table tennis?
I'll talk about myself. So my name is Rahul. I've been playing table tennis since 2003. Professionally, national and international levels. Then I moved to Australia in 2018. I've been doing my master's in sports management in Deakin University. I'll be graduating next week. Then I've been working with TTV as well. I work as a high performance and competition manager. Then I started my own academy called ICC as well last year. It's been going pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, Rahul. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So, hey guys, my name's Jorel. I'm currently studying my Bachelor's of IT in my final year. I'm graduating this semester, hopefully. And then basically how I got into table tennis, I consider myself still quite new to the table tennis community. Haven't had much or any professional experience at all. Just been playing at high school and university level. So I just took my interest for the sport from high school, found out, I was quite decent at it. And yeah, just carried on that passion throughout university, where I got to meet Alex during open day. I still remember that time. And really under his mentorship, really followed the path of sports leadership. And now I'm currently the president of the Swinburne Table Tennis Club after him. So yeah, it's been great. Been challenging during these times, but looking forward to how that club grows and how involved I get with the community in the future.
Awesome, Jorel. How about yourself, Sam?
Yeah, hi Alex, and thanks for having me on today to talk about, I guess, what we all have a different idea about what is leadership in sport, and hope we can all share our experiences. I'm originate from Albury. I'm now working in Canberra. I've been involved in table tennis since I was 16, so about 11 years as a player, as an administrator, now as an official, qualified as an international umpire earlier this year. So it's been great to, I guess, do different things in the sport and contribute in different ways. I studied at ANU, graduated in 2016. I did a Bachelor of Business Administration and Public Policy. And now I'm working in the ACT government in the Department of Transport as a HR advisor. So really enjoying that. And yeah, I guess my main leadership role has been in table tennis in the ACT as a board member since 2016, as well as at the ANU Table Tennis Club across various roles while I was there, and in the Inter-University Table Tennis Association in Sydney, mainly as a tournament director.
Awesome. It's one of the things when everyone's introducing themselves, every time I listen to a lot of the speakers who come on board, I really enjoy the story that each speaker talks about and how they got involved within the sport and how things originated in their own point of view. Like for me, for example, I got involved with table tennis when I started university. I actually loved playing table tennis when I was a kid, but I wasn't in that professional level or even I was more of a beginner, but I really enjoyed it because my parents bought a table for me when I was the age of 9. After that period of time, I still remember this, is in my first year at university, the first thing I wanted to do was play table tennis. Funny enough, not go to class. Actually, I did go to the class, but it was after class, I'd go to table tennis training, and I met my coach there, and my coach really he really not only pushed me to the limit, but he actually taught me all the basics of table tennis. He got me involved with the table tennis club. He taught me all these concepts, and then I met the president, and then I met all these. It's a wonderful community that I got embedded in myself. And then the next year, when the president at that year left, I became the president of the table tennis club, and I was the president for 4 years to around 2019 when I graduated from university, which was last year. And then I found out the table tennis club at Swinburne formed this group with 5 other universities, which was called the Unofficial Southern University Games at the time. And that story is the whole reason why I got involved, because it showed, for one, it was envisionment. They envisioned something and the direct impact to the community. And their vision was, they saw that sports, table tennis especially, wasn't inducted within the Southern University Games or the Unisport Australia's calendar of sports. It wasn't there. So this group of students of 5 unis came together to create this event. That was 11 years ago. And the event's still going, and it's now called the Victorian InterVarsity Games. And that's how I've seen leadership grow. One person's leadership spread and impacted a group of other people. And for me, I'm very proud of myself for being involved and then getting to meet all these wonderful personalities and all these wonderful people around the table tennis community. And that's how I see leadership. So enough from me. I really wanted to talk about the topic. So how we're going to expand on it is we're going to have a discussion about leadership and how you guys feel. So first question is really direct. What is leadership and what's sports leadership? So who wants to begin with that conversation? How do you guys see that?
I think for me, a leader is someone who takes a group of people and I guess takes them on the journey they outline to their team or to the people that they're trying to, I guess, sell their vision to, that this is the direction we need to go in. This is where I see the organisation or the club or the event heading to. And really, I guess, getting that buy-in from the people that you're wanting to, inspire and motivate and collaborate with. They're some of the best leaders that I've worked under. I remember when we were planning the ACT Open in 2018. It didn't happen in 2017. The event was cancelled. So we had to think about, okay, how do we get ourselves from, an event not happening to something that, attracted players, from Victoria, New South Wales. It became one of the biggest events on the calendar. And I was sort of charged with that, that responsibility to take the event to the next level. So I had to think, okay, what do I need to do to I guess, bring people along on this journey? And there was a lot of resistance to change. People didn't want to invest so much money in an event. They thought, why bother? But it was, for me, it was about getting table tennis in Canberra on the map and getting us more of a presence. So from working under leaders and from, leading others, I try to really make people involved in the process, and get people's ideas and make it an input. Everyone's input is important. Just because I'm leading something doesn't mean that what I have to say is the final word. Obviously, I have to make the final decisions, or the people that I'm working under, they make the final decisions. But I want to feel that I'm, taking on board on what people are wanting to contribute.
I really like that explanation, Sam. I think leadership is it's an area where, for example, people do identify leaders as someone who's autocratic. Like we had this conversation with our student representative council members who were on the Swinburne SRC, in our last week's episode that our viewers can check out. And we discussed about what makes someone a leader. Is it someone who's autocratic? which is not true, to be honest. You don't need to be autocratic to be a leader. You need to be the leader who can actually envision something and share it amongst your peers. I'm not too sure if Jorel and Rahul was on the same path as us. Is that something you guys envision as leadership?
So, how I see a leader is he should not be a person with all the skills and all. So, but what he should know is to bring the right talent together, manage them, and make them work towards a particular goal. That's what a leader is. Okay. For being a leader, he should not be a person uh, who is like empowered by 100 people. The 100 people that he follows, those people should be like empowered by the fact that this guy is there to lead you.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Mm.
A leader should not be such a person like I have 100 people following me, but those 100 people, they should feel like we are empowered because this guy is there to lead me. That's the role of a leader. That's how I see it.
Yeah. That's a good explanation, Rahul. How about yourself, Jorel?
Yeah, I think the topic of leadership is something I've been personally trying to grapple and get my head around, because it is this term that universities promote in sport and also in academics, that you have to be a leader, you have to stand out from the crowd, and you position yourself in different areas of the university where you kind of get exposed to leadership, but it's sort of turned into this buzzword now where people are starting to question what is leadership. But I guess in terms of my personal view on leadership, it's a lot of the points were covered by Sam and Rahul. I definitely agree. Like it's about the people around you, getting them, empowering them. It's not just about the one person who has all the skills, who has all the answers, but rather just trying to get the idea across to other people, and making them, again, part of the process, as Sam said. So yeah, it's a tough one to put a sort of definition on, because it can mean a lot of things to different people. But I think from my point of view, the gist of it is getting people to believe in the why. So yes, you can be a leader in terms of, oh, I have this authority, I have this power, but no one's really going to follow you if they don't believe in the why. I feel like it's more effective to communicate why you're doing something and really be enthusiastic about what you do, so that other people can be infected by that enthusiasm, and then that's how you lead or become a more effective leader, by getting people to believe in what you believe as well. That's sort of a very wish-washy answer, but it's a hard one to put a definite, I guess, definition on it. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see what Rahul and Sam think about leadership. But yeah, that's definitely something I'm still trying to get my head around.
I really like the way that I think everyone's got that different envisionment. It could be the same, it could be different, it could be slightly different. But for me, I think leadership is something that I've always seen. Like when I started university, for example, I wouldn't say I was a leader. I would say I would be someone who was trying to find his voice. That was me, trying to find my way through university. And I got through that through getting involved in these extracurricular activities at university that was on offer, including in the table tennis community. And I think that broadens the mindset of myself in that aspects. And then, of course, getting to meet Jorel, yourself, Sam, and of course, Rahul in the process. So down to my second question, which is also about experience. And I think table tennis, I think we're pretty close within the table tennis community within Victoria and New South Wales, for example, and we see this leadership. Can you guys share your experiences within those roles that you've identified before, that you guys have been a part of, and how's it actually changed your mindset being a part of those roles?
I think I've obviously performed a number of different roles across a number of different organisations, both student, I guess, led organisations, to, a state body in ACT. I was relatively young when I first started on the board of management here in ACT. I was only 22, which at the time I thought was young to be stepping into that type of role. And I remember when I first came on board, it was an older group that I was joining. So I felt that I was bringing, I guess, a different perspective. And my sort of view was, how can we grow table tennis, not just in the ACT, but in Australia? So I was trying to, come up with different ways to grow participation at the grassroots level, getting out in the schools, bringing more university students into, I guess, competitions here in the ACT, capitalising on the fact that we are a very international city. We do have a lot of people coming here, to study, to work internationally. So for me, it was about, I guess, challenging the status quo a little bit, that I'd realised that table tennis had been quite stagnant here in Canberra, and really sort of saying, well, what are the opportunities we could take to put us on the map nationally? And it has taken a while. That was, nearly 5 years ago now. And I see now we have much more of a presence. We have a much better relationship with the national body and other state and territory bodies. We're a lot more collaborative. I think there's that focus on, I guess, sharing ideas and resources, and not everyone is kind of siloed in their own way of doing things. I think it's really important that, we're all trying, I guess, to achieve the same outcomes. We want to make the sport better. We want to get more people playing. We want to make the experience for everyone a lot better. Let's work together, I guess, rather than, not against each other. But I think it's great that even today we can, sit down and have a chat together about leadership and I guess what it's meant for us. And it's taught me a lot. It's personally, I've made a lot of decisions in leadership that sometimes weren't the best decisions. But then I sort of noted for the next time, okay, I've learnt from that. It's something you can't just learn in one day or even in 1 year. It's a continually, evolving thing that you have to just keep chipping away at to be a better leader, and be the type of leader that people will respect you. They won't question your integrity. To me, that's really important. Having people's trust and knowing that they know that you're in it because you want to benefit everyone else. It's not for your own self-benefit. You want to see better outcomes for everyone.
That's awesome, Zam. How about Rahul and Jorel? What are your thoughts?
For me, an experience for leadership is when I started ICC from nothing. Okay, so I came to Australia. I don't know anyone. I'm kind of new here, so I wanted to create something for myself. I wanted to work for myself rather than working under anyone. So first, what I did is I looked through within my community as well. So I found there were a lot of international Indian players who were here. Then I rang them up and I asked them, what are you guys doing? they were doing odd jobs and stuff. And you guys played for India and stuff, and you guys are doing working in the kitchen and stuff. What are you guys doing? So I had this idea of starting something, and they were in for it because they thought it was not going to work in the beginning. So I was going nuts and stuff. So but I had this vision. So I brought in the right talents, as I told you. A leader is not someone with all the skills. I didn't have all the skills, but I knew the right people, the people with the right skills. So I brought them together. So all those people who work with me in ICC, all the other coaches and stuff, they all are better than me, in paper and in real as well. They all have a lot of international medals. They have been world top 100 and stuff, and they were in Australia and doing something else. So I brought these people together and created a team, and that has actually benefited the kids as well. The performance of the kids has started to increase. so that thereby the trust of parents and stuff. So this was actually a learning curve for me as well, how to like step up to the role of the leader, how to bring the right talents together, work together. So this was a leadership experience. This was like the first leadership experience for me because my career just started as well. Then another experience was working with TTV. So TTV didn't have a high performance program. They had one in like in 2000 or something, long back. After that, Richie came up with this idea, like, why don't we have this program and stuff? Then me and Peter Trednick, we all like ran through the ideas and stuff, and we created this high performance program, which is running till date. So that was another experience of leadership for me. So being part of TTV, I see Richie as a role model. So I learned a lot of stuff from him and Claire. So that was like my first experience with like experiencing a proper leader. Then I took a lot of lessons from them and applied it with ICC. So that was my experience with leadership.
That's awesome, Rahul. To our viewers who are wondering who all these names are, Richie and Claire are part of Table Tennis Victoria. So Richie is the current CEO of the organisation, and Claire is in an events management role, if I'm not wrong, at Table Tennis Victoria. Claire has been within Table Tennis Victoria for over, I think, 20 years, and within the table tennis community. What I'm getting here is, Rahul, you've been inspired by others, and then you've taken those inspirations and made it into your own envision. You've envisioned something and you've taken it. That's a really great example. Awesome. And how about yourself, Jorel? How's your experiences been within the leadership roles that you've taken up at university and in table tennis?
Yeah, for sure. I think at the start, and this is being retrospective of my experience, in retrospect, sort of at the start, I was looking for some sort of involvement in clubs because, that's what universities tell you to. Don't just do the academics, look for other opportunities and really make yourself well-rounded as a graduate later on. You'll sort of thank yourself for that. So I did enter the club space with the intentions of, just improving myself, very self-centered, and wasn't really thinking about others. But I think throughout the time, in meeting yourself as well, and under your mentorship, I really pivoted my viewpoint and started to see, hey, it's being involved in this club. It's just more about, yourself, what you do, how you develop personally, but you can actually have an impact on those around you. So with every sort of opportunity that was presented to me, through that involvement in the Swinburne Table Tennis Club, I just took it initially as a opportunity to, better my skills, better, my interpersonal skills, my technical skills, and just really put myself out there. But the more I was in the role and the more roles I did sort of go into, starting from IT and marketing director all the way to vice president and, later on president, each sort of level up, I got to understand that it wasn't just about me, but it was about creating a community around me and impacting that community. So that sort of led me to getting involved in other roles outside of Swinburne table tennis, such as the VIGs, which you dragged me along into the committee, and also ASEAN Games in 2019, which was really fun. So ASEAN Games, again, it was one of those things that I experienced as a participant. There was a couple of things that we would have liked to seem different in the first time I experienced that, but then when the second time came around, I was already in a position to make an impact. I was on the committee. I was able to, with your help, of course, we were able to shape what that event looked like. And I think with each event, and as time goes on, it sort of shaped my viewpoint of, hey, I'm in a unique position to impact those around me and really benefit from creating an experience for everyone that I would have liked to see as a member myself. So I think that's one of the things that really changed my experience in terms of leadership. serving others, not just yourself. And that way, sort of you're improving those around you. And in turn, you do get to experience those benefits. It's just a win-win for everyone.
I agree with what everyone has said. I think with Jorel, it's a unique position because I've worked with Jorel directly, and we worked together for at least, I think, 3 years at swimmer and table tennis for the Victorian InterVarsity Games. And I've seen the way that Jorel works. Jorel is very methodical with how he works. He's got his own method. He's got his own, you've got your own vision, and then I think really good leaders is one thing that I've always seen. I'm not too sure if everyone agrees with me, is good leaders find ways to mitigate problems. They find ways to find a way out. They find ways to solve the problem. And I see that Rahul has done that with the ICC, and within your roles at Table Tennis Victoria. And it's really impactful to the community of what you guys have done. And Sam as well. I've seen all the work you've done with ITTA, your umpiring. Of course, you've been in the role of Commonwealth Games umpire, which is a huge experience. You get to experience an internationally worldwide event, not really worldwide, but in the Commonwealth, and then see that leadership. So it's so positive to see all these stories. Now, my third question is going towards table tennis. We're going to really be table tennis centric from now. So in table tennis, what do you guys see is the next steps for the sport? And how is that leadership, the people around within the table tennis leadership community, is going to impact regardless of the level, from local level to university level to national level or even state level? What's the envisionment there? I think I'm mind boggled.
It's a really difficult question, and I've thought a lot about it because I actually answer this question quite a bit at work when people say, "Oh, what are your hobbies?" I said, "Oh, I play table tennis. I'm a table tennis umpire," and they say, "Oh, it's like a look of shock. Like you sort of have to try and explain to them what table tennis is. Not, a lot of people think of it as ping pong, but then you have to explain, what is, I told someone the other day that table tennis was in the Olympics and they had no idea. Wow. So for me, it's around, for me, it's really about, and it's a challenge that I think many sports are facing is making it more marketable and making it more attractive to a mainstream audience. I think table tennis faces that challenge more so than other sports. We've seen with, cricket going towards shorter formats, tennis going towards the fast four format. The sports are now changing, I think, to make them more television friendly, if you like, or for more entertainment purposes. So how can we make table tennis more entertaining? I think it's entertaining as it is, but I can understand from the non-table tennis, I guess, observer, they might think, oh, this isn't really an attractive sport. So I know that, at the ITTF level, this is one of the biggest questions that they're trying to, answer, is how do we make table tennis more appealable to a mainstream audience, and, it goes from like the changing of the ball to the plastic ball to make the game, slower. There was talks of, raising the height of the net, the move from 21 to 11. All of these things over time have contributed to making table tennis more, I guess, appealable. I think it's a big challenge. For me, it's about exposure. It's about advertising. It's about selling the benefits, the social, the physical benefits of the game to actually play the sport, not just watch it. I think there's been a big emphasis on that in Australia in the last couple of years to sell those benefits. I think we've come a long way in that space, but there's more work to be done. But it's definitely a worldwide challenge. I know, Alex, you mentioned about the World TT format being rolled out next year, hopefully pending the pandemic situation. But Yeah, I guess to answer your question, for me, it's just about getting the word out there, because I know for me, I didn't even know table tennis was a legitimate sport until I actually started and went along to a club. I was like, wow, and this is like, where has this been, all my life, sort of thing.
You know what? One thing that comes to mind, Sam, is all about leadership. I know it's connecting to the leadership part, but
Yeah,
I really see table tennis growing to another level. And I think to our viewers, if you're quite shocked, as many of us was when we were before we got involved with table tennis, or even when, for example, when I was younger, funny enough, because I started playing table tennis at the age of 9, my parents got me into the sport at that point because my parents are quite sporty people. They played a lot of badminton and a lot of table tennis. And at the time when they got me that table, I started playing a lot of high school table tennis, grassroots, call it grassroots table tennis. And I remember playing funny enough, I played in that time, like when I was in high school, around in year 12, I played against some state level players who are even my friends at the moment, because they played at some of my tournaments that I ran in the Victorian Intervarsity Games and at Swinburne. And thinking about that, right, it's a community. Like, I know that other sports, like for example, I love my other sports like AFL, I love my AFL, I love tennis. I see a lot of things that is going on with those communities of how they can get people involved. And table tennis got me involved through grassroots level. And then I remember around in year 12, I started to watch a lot of table tennis online, and I saw the level of table tennis within those. Like, for example, some notable names is Ma Wong, Timo Boll, Fan Jingdong. They're all from like the European countries and the Asian countries where table tennis is really predominantly the main sport, like such as AFL in Australia, which is our #1 sport, as well as cricket. But in those Asian countries, the sport dominates, and then when you start to think about why is it not dominating in Australia, and there's multiple facets of that answer. But at the same time, it's also to do with the leadership. And in Australia, and I know the sport is growing. There's new leadership coming in, and I think we had this discussion before about the new formats of table tennis and the way that it's been changing up. And it's all to connecting to the envisionment of an individual or a group of a team. And we can see that within, for example, we've seen that in table tennis Victoria with a lot of restructure with Richie. Richie's really brought his ideas from his sports background, and then that's just a great example. And then I see it within you guys as well. Like, we're having this conversation about sport and what we've directly introduced within table tennis, and I think it's great to see that, regardless of the sports character and the sports size. So how about yourself, Rahul? Did you have anything to add on to that?
Yes. Actually, a bit. I agree with everything that Sam is saying. Table tennis is actually in the right track, especially with the transformation to WTT, Lee Guliang as the new ambassador, the deal with IMG, which is very, very promising. We can expect a lot of stuff next year. So how can we transform table tennis? It's all about commercialization in this age. You got to make it more commercial, more entertaining. Got to market it well. They marketed the ping pong championship in England, and it actually gave out more prize money than the world tours. If they can do it, why can't ITTF? Okay, so it is possible, and when it comes to marketing, it's a joint responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of the federations. The players should take some initiative as well, because we know that table tennis is not popular. So we need a combined collective effort to do it. So I have seen many international and national players, even from Australia, national champions. When I look at their Instagram feed, all I see is bathroom selfies, dog pics, not even a single picture about table tennis or a video. And how do they expect table tennis to become the next tennis or cricket, to be as commercial, if they are not promoting their own sport? How can they expect it? It's a joint responsibility. So as per the social media algorithms and stuff, you gotta put in more posts, more feed. You gotta bomb in the social media with more posts so that a lot of people see it. That's how they become aware of it. A lot of people think that table tennis is still a social sport, which we play in our garage. We have to change the perspective. Why don't you share
And
some like good videos and stuff so that our friends who are not involved with table tennis get aware? A lot of players, like national players and stuff, their friends still don't know that they are players. You know, such situation. It's because none of their social media feeds have anything to do with table tennis. All they do is bathroom selfies. So this is a major
connect.
problem as well. You can't just blame the federations. They are doing what they can with the limited amount of budget they are getting. The budgets that is allocated to the cricket and stuff is very big because it is driven by fans, a lot of ticket sales. You don't get anything out of conducting a state tournament. We don't sell tickets. So our budgets are less. The amount of money that the federations get are also less. So it should be a collective effort to market the sport.
I
So
think
there is a bit of blame to the players as well. They are
I
not
connect.
contributing enough.
So Rahul, connecting to your point and Sam's point, and I'll get to Jorel very soon. Is you know, getting back to the topic of sports leadership. It does sound like to get. I think this is where our points are really made, and what we've said from the beginning of our podcast is it's a collective effort, it's a team effort, but it always takes one or two people to bring the name of that sport to a specific region or a specific area. And I'm going to say this, we've successfully done it within the universities. Sam with ITTA, myself and Jorel, who's been a part of the Victorian InterVarsity Games, and of course Rahul, who's a part of the Table Tennis Victoria wide organisation, which does impact a lot of universities. In my time at uni, I've always had, I remember this when I was running the Victorian InterVarsity Games. So through that time, we had a goal of getting the sport from grassroots. So many people think, of course, you play in your backyard, yeah? I'm like, no, we don't play in our backyards. We actually play competitions. And I remember talking to a few of the members at the club who didn't know about the sport. And then when they start to learn about the techniques, the speed of the sport, that like the fastest ever, I think it was ball that was shot is 120 kilometers per second, or not even per second. I think it's millisecond. If correct me if I'm wrong. And then people start to get that interest based on that knowledge. But it always takes that one person to tell them that, and someone has to. Which I'm going to go to our next topic, and I've got Rahul on this, and I've got Sam and Jorel, is passion. Passion is important in leadership. Passion is important regardless if it's from the sports aspect, or is it running an event, or if it's in your daily jobs. Passion is what drives us to the next stage of creating something that can impact the community. So let's take a deep breath and let's talk about passion in that. So what is your passion in table tennis? What do you guys see that drives you? I think I'll start with Jorel on this one.
Yeah, sure. For me, I try my best not to make table tennis sort of my work or like a chore. I really want to, keep the fun and the interest I had initially when getting into the sport, because I feel like that's at the end of the day, for me, I value more involvement in the sport if I'm having fun. So yeah, I'm as it translates to the club, that sort of thing. I know it's important to have those training sessions and really improve yourself as technique. But when you reach a point where it's not fun anymore, I feel like it should you should step back a bit and really take a break sometimes and really not lose that passion, because you're right, passion is very important, especially in sport, because that's how you keep yourself motivated, that's how you improve yourself over time, that's how you discipline yourself to go the extra step further. And how that translates to leadership is I think what I see in yourself, Alex, through the years that I've been working with you, You were someone who was very passionate about the sport, and really infected me in terms of really supporting what you wanted to do with the club. Not only just a member, but as part of the committee in later years. So that really helped me buy into the idea of, okay, we're sort of impacting the community. We're helping, make Swinburne table tennis better. We're helping make table tennis in Victoria better. And it just takes that little bit of passion from one person to, just really spread out to those around them. And that has a ripple effect, I think, towards the community. So as long as everyone's sort of, keeping their passions intact, because there is that tipping point where, the thing you wanted to do, and I have friends that, speak about this. I have one friend that really is into outdoor ed, but since that has become his work, he's sort of being very careful not to lose the enthusiasm or the enjoyment he gets out of, being outdoors. So I think that's the same for anything at work, and especially at sport. And it's important to keep that as leaders, so that the people who are relying on our passion and our enthusiasm to make a difference, they don't get impacted or, sort of lose hope in that way. But yeah, that's
Well said, Jorel.
what I think. Yeah.
Thanks for I think the compliments. I think I do agree on that one. But I wanted to move on to Sam. How about yourself? Sam, what's the passion and drive?
Yeah, so as I said, I've performed a lot of different roles, I guess, throughout my involvement in table tennis. And for me, I agree with Jorel around, you don't want to, it shouldn't be a chore. I 100% agree with that. At times there has been that feeling of you take on a lot, and you feel very responsible for how things are going, whether it's within your club or, particularly running events, especially larger events. They can be quite grueling. They can take up a lot of energy, late nights, doing draws, and and I just think, why am I doing that? Yeah. But I think for me, it's around seeing how I can make it as greater impact as I can, to make other people's lives a lot better through table tennis. I think with the pandemic affecting us all this year, especially you guys down in Victoria more so than the rest of us in Australia, it's really emphasised to me the importance of table tennis in our lives, and it's actually has quite a substantive part of our lives. I remember when we came back to playing, I really felt that, and actually it gave me a lot of perspective on what I could do more of, particularly in my local club here. I haven't been as active within ACT table tennis as much in the last couple of years. I've been doing travelling around and going up to Sydney a fair bit for ITTA. So for me, it was about giving back to the community here, particularly this year, because obviously we can't travel a lot and there's not a lot happening. But it just gave me a whole new perspective on I guess what we have and what we should treasure it as much as we can. But definitely, there are times when I have felt overwhelmed and I've stepped back. I've gone offline for a couple of weeks, without table tennis, and just to recalibrate and think, okay, I've got to look after my, because at the end of the day, you've got to look after your mental health as well, to perform at your best, not just as an athlete, but as an administrator, as a leader in your particular club or association. You've got to be well yourself if you're going to be at your best.
Awesome, well said, Sam. And how about yourself, Rahul?
So I have a different view, because I was actually not that passionate about table tennis. Table tennis happened to me incidentally, because both my parents were doctors, so they never had time for me and my brothers. We were nuisance at home, so they took us to the academy and left us there. then it was like a long 15-year journey. 6 hours of training, 6 days a week. I actually got fed up with table tennis uh, when I reached a certain point, and because we trained a lot, we gradually improved. So, but when I started coaching, that's when I started getting this interest. Because personally, I didn't like to train, but when we go through this process of improving a kid, like training a kid from nothing to something, that process gives me happiness. That's where the passion comes from. I like kids playing, developing, getting medals. I like all these stuff. That's where the passion comes from. And I personally think uh, for a leader, for a leader with passion, working towards a goal increases productivity. If you are a leader without a passion, you are working for someone else's goal. That's just driven by monetary benefits or something else. If you are driven by passion, your productivity will increase. That's what I believe.
That's really well said. I think everyone's got that different perspective. Like, I'll share a bit of my perspective. I think going back to the topic of when I started uni, that president of the table tennis club who recently actually posted on the table tennis club page about 11 years of Victorian InterVarsity Games years, and on that day of 2009 when he decided to team up with a group of students, that changed. You know, one thing that came to mind for me was it was not only his passion, but it's the amount of people that were affected by that one simple change. Thousands, when you think about it, in 11 years, that's thousands of students playing in these events because of one or a group of students who decided to make one simple action, which was to get together and create an event that has been going on for 11 years. And that makes me proud to be a part of that community through those university days. And when I heard, back to Sam, when I was at, when I heard about like your journey as well with ITTA, which is the Inter-Universities Table Tennis Association, which is very similar to what Victorian InterVarsity Games is trying to achieve in Victoria. And when it was happening in another state, you realize that table tennis is not such a small sport. It's an unknown sport to many. And then when you find out that there's connections, and one of the things that I do on my weekends is I run my own Instagram page that probably you guys know about my table tennis. I'm really passionate about it, and it gets me through the day. Like sometimes after work, so working from home can be very difficult at times because you're isolated. Even though I've got of course, my family at home, but they're going to work most of the time. So most of the times I'm at home either alone or with my brother, who's at home as well, doing his online school. And then it's kind of like you're in your own room, he's in your own room, and then when you finish your work, which is around 5:30 to 6 o'clock, you want to be proactive. So I've got a table tennis table downstairs, so I start training, and my whole goal of that page is to put some of my training tips and share what I've learned with the community. And I've got around almost, I'm trying to get to my 200 mark, but I've got a lot of followers from internationally. So I've got someone who does his own thing in the UK. So he does training videos. His name is Multiballer, and I met him through the Instagram. So he followed me, and then he started commenting on my table tennis page, and then I took a look at his. He does the same thing, but in the UK, and you realize that's community. It's what brings us together. And going back to the leadership part, it's all about one thing, passion. Two things actually: passion and drive from a leader, and that brings a community together.
And
Now,
if you look
yeah,
at InterVarsity Games, it still exists until now. It's because the people behind it were passionate people. They did it because they want to do it, not because someone else wanted to do it. It was their goal. It was driven by passion. That's why it still
yeah, definitely agree with that, Rahul. And I think that's how we connected as well, like Sam, Rahul, and Jorel through table tennis.
Yeah.
And
It's a small community, but a very vibrant one. I reckon it'd be interesting to see once it does get bigger, hopefully, if we still keep that tight knit group, and hopefully it doesn't get too sort of extravagant way, we lose this sort of personal connection. And I think there's a lot of value in that in these sort of early stages. But yeah, definitely something like similar to how small company will have a unique type of culture. I feel like table tennis in Victoria, but also in Australia, has that certain phase. But at the end of the day, you can't really stop growth and keep that sort of thing from keeping the sport growing. But it's definitely an aspect that I really like about table tennis at this point in time. So yeah.
Awesome. I've got one more question, and this is a big topic: career outside of table tennis or within table tennis. And that question connects to this: how has table tennis and leadership changed or even affected your career goals and aspirations? Everyone's thinking.
So I did table tennis like for half of my life. That's why. So there was a point of so you might know this in Asian culture or maybe in Indian culture. After high school, you're only allowed 3 streams. One is medicine, one is engineering, and one is law. Okay,
Yep.
so I had these 3 options. Okay, but and I chose. I was doing engineering for 2.5 years, and I was not happy about it because all I did in my life was table tennis sport. I was always involved in sport, and I went to a Christian college, and they have a lot of control over you. They have control over how you look, how you comb your hair. You have to wear uniforms and stuff. So it was the worst part of my life. That was my lowest point in my life. So I was not happy about it. So I took the bold decision to drop out. That doesn't happen in our culture. If you drop out of engineering and stuff, you are considered as a failure. Okay, so in our culture, it's like a joint family. Like everyone has an opinion in your life. So everyone started questioning my decision because I was doing pretty well in engineering as well, and I studied it for 2.5 years. And when I quit, it created a lot of chaos at home. But my parents were supportive, but others had problems, like relatives and stuff, and society had problems. But because sport gave me an experience of dealing with pressure. Okay, it gives you that experience. So we take this into our life as well. So we learn how to deal with pressure situations in life as well. So I took that bold decision to switch my career to sport. I did my master's in sport management. So this is what sport has given me. And so I shifted my whole career towards sport. So anything that I do further in my life will be related to sport because I studied sport. I'm working in sport. I might die with sport. Sport is like my drug. It's like oxygen to me.
Good. There's your passion right there, Alex.
That is
Very passionate, Rahul.
very passionate, Rahul. And everyone's got their own different levels and different passions and different ambitions, but ultimately it has given you the upper hand, I would say, in your career and your aspirations. How about yourself, Sam?
Yeah, I think in my role, obviously in the HR space, it's a very people-centric role. You need quite good interpersonal skills. You need you need to be able to clearly communicate information to people. You need to deal with. Sometimes you may have to deal with at their worst state. They might be quite emotional about issues going on in the workplace or in their personal life that's impacting their work. So you need to be kind of that sounding board for people. But at the same time, you need to be, you can't get too emotionally invested with what's going on. And that's really helped me with some of the roles, particularly in umpiring and refereeing. As you guys know, there's situations where players can get quite emotional on the court and off the court. And for us as officials, we need to be able to deal with those issues quite quickly, and we need to respond. Our response has to be quite firm, but I guess my approach to people management is being sympathetic and realizing that people are not robots. we do have emotion, we do some behave. For me, it's about, being there for the players. I see myself as serving the players. The players make the events. I want to make but at the same time, and it goes back to Rahul's point earlier about the players also need to give back to the sport. And that's through the way they conduct themselves and the way they behave and the way they act as role models as well for the younger, the younger players. So I guess my because I've been in my current role for about 3 years, and I know I've gotten better at dealing with, I guess, tricky situations in dealing with people because of the work I do, and I even thought of a situation the other day where someone came up to me a little bit irate about a decision I'd made, and probably a few years ago I would have responded quite negatively. I would have been quite offended and I would have been quite angry at him, but I realised it wasn't a personal thing, and I knew that at the end of the day we could, we may disagree, but there's still that respect, and I think that's important in your dealings with people in all your different roles. If you know that they respect you at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing. You may not agree, or you may not come to a solution for everyone, but if you come to that middle ground, to me, I try to achieve that as much as I can.
Well said, Sam. Well, really well said. I think you've connected those professional traits with your leadership traits, and that's really, I think it does show in the demeanor of a person, and then it drives that energy and that thinking of a leader. And I really like the way that you've summed it up, Sam. And how about yourself, Jorel?
Yeah, I think at this point in time, I'm still very set on the path of, going into IT, entering the industry as an IT professional. So I can't really say table tennis has impacted my career choices as much. But where I do see the impact of being involved in table tennis and that community is it's helped me to become a more social person, believe it or not. Entering university, you don't know anyone, especially studying IT. It's very stereotypical to be that sort of person who's quiet, is good at what they do, but doesn't really talk to anyone outside the IT team. So I did have a lot of personal struggles there. Like you wouldn't even see me in front of a camera like this during those years. So I can definitely attribute a lot of my current interpersonal skills through that involvement, not only within the Swinburne table tennis community, which is a very small, nice space to sort of connect with other people on the same level in terms of the sport, but also, meeting other people from different universities and even like professional players, that sort of thing. So you get a wide exposure to these people who, at the end of the day, share the same interest for table tennis and passion. So it was really kind of, I guess, eye-opening experience to go through that. And that helped me sort of become a more well-rounded graduate, and hopefully will give me some sort of edge in industry. But I think just day to day, it's helped me, become a better communicator. Again, as Sam said, you deal with a lot of, tricky situations, especially in events management. You're trying to please a lot of people. The same can be said when you're working on projects in IT. Yeah. You have the head project manager, which, has deadlines. You have deadlines, other people have deadlines, and you're sort of working together as a team. So I think just trying to bridge the analogy of table tennis and work, there's that team spirit and, idea of working towards a common goal, which was really, and I think this is true for, people who have exposure to sports. You do get a different sense of teamwork and cooperation, and you're able to, I guess, apply that to the workspace. And the bonus thing with working in IT is that, a lot of IT companies or like companies that have IT that sort of thing, they have table tennis tables. So it acts as like a social outlet for employees. But I think that can actually turn into an opportunity to further the sport and educate people about it. So believe it or not, there are like different companies, a lot of companies that have table tennis tables, albeit it might not be used as much, and it can be just for like kidding around during at lunch, that sort of thing. But I think it's important to connect on that sort of level, like on a common interest, and it, again, betters your productivity and connection with other people. So yeah, in short, that's sort of the impact table tennis has made in terms of my career moving forward.
Lovely way to sum it up, Jorel. I think everyone's had that different perspective. I think I'll give my short perspective is, as Jorel has said, working in IT. I do work in IT, and table tennis has definitely changed the way that I think. I don't know if you believe me, but before I started uni, I was a shy kid. I was very shy. When I started uni, people don't believe me. When I say it, people laugh at me. But I tell people that it's kind of changed the way that I think. So when I started, of course, I met all these different personalities at the table tennis club, and then expanded to different universities when I started running all these events, and then when I started competing a lot at events, it actually showed me that there's different ways to handling different situations, as what Sam has said, and you learn that. And then when I graduated from university, I entered a graduate position, which I'm currently in, and through that role, I work with different people. And when you're working with different people, it's the same in table tennis. I work with different people in events management, and then I work with a lot of different people in my work, my day-to-day work. And the one thing that has really helped me is communication. Able to communicate the same message and have it not be encoded to the next person is very important. And that could be through the different channels, the different ways of speaking, listening skills. I'm going to be honest, I really like to explain. People know that. So when I started work, I learned how to settle down. We call it settle down and let someone else do the talking and listen and be a good listener. And then all these things I've actually learned through my experiences within table tennis and leadership. There was another thing that table tennis really helped me through is it opened up doors and new avenues to other leadership roles. Like at university, for example, other than table tennis, I got involved with the Swinburne peer assistance and mentoring programs. So I became a mentor, and I became a peer assistant, which is practically you teach first year students like core units. So for example, it's like a tutoring program run by students. And then I got involved with that. And then that opened up another leadership door. I got elected, I was the elected chair of the Swinburne Student Representative Council of 2019. And I got the opportunity to lead a team of 35 and represent 18,000 Swinburne students through that role. It opened up different avenues from table tennis. And then eventually I got into a graduate position after graduating. So that's how it's changed my career pathway. It's given me opportunities, and I'm still a part of that university table tennis community. I still try to give my point of view now. I don't really get involved by organizing events, obviously with COVID-19, but I try to give my best advice, especially when Jorel comes messaging me saying, Alex, can I get some advice? And for me, it's kind of like it makes me happy that I've made an impact to another community. And I think that's very important as leaders to think about, because career progression is very important. And actually, this is my last question, I promise. This is an important one. Who is someone who inspires you in sport? Doesn't have to be table tennis. It could be anyone in the community or within the sports community. Who is someone who inspires you and why? Everyone's
For
thinking.
me, my coach back in India. So this guy was an IT guy. He used to work in Qatar, earning millions. He left all that, came back to India, started coaching us for nothing. He still does it. So that's where my passion comes from. Okay, so that's a person who I look up to. That's where I learned a lot. Then, if you ask me about like an international perspective, I like MSD. If you follow cricket, you know who's MSD.
Yes.
Yeah, so this guy revolutionized Indian cricket. He made those bold decisions to let go of all the senior players, brought in all the young talent. He made an organizational change, like a team change. So that revolutionary step, that boldness, I like those traits of him. And he was a perfect leader, cool, calm, composed, thinks wisely, leads the team as a pack, won a lot of trophies and stuff. So I look up to him as well.
Awesome, Rahul. How about Sam?
Oh, that's really tough. I've had I've had a lot of, I guess, from an international sports perspective, and this guy was probably before my time in terms of when he actually played the sport, but Pete Sampras. So Pete Sampras
yes.
was a multiple Grand Slam champion. 14 times he won the. I think he was a 7-time Wimbledon champion. And I only got to watch sort of footage of him, but what admired me most about him was just his demeanour and his personality. He was so. I think he's quite a shy, like introverted guy by nature, but he was just a very unassuming. Like it's like you wouldn't, if you walk past him in the street, you wouldn't think, oh, he's the number one tennis player in the world. So for me, like he wasn't outward, like he didn't sort of boast or he didn't brag or he didn't say I'm the greatest. Like I think like someone like Federer has a lot of those traits, but for me, just they're the qualities I really admire in a sports person. Is they get to where they are, obviously because they want to be, but when they get there, they don't change. Like they're just themselves. They don't change as a human being, and just his humility, I guess, really touched me. And I guess from a personal, probably closer to home, a guy called, and he won't like me for saying this, but a guy called Rob Crowdy, who's been involved in table tennis in the ACT for something like 40 years. He played with Jeff Plum back in the 90s.
Jeff Plum.
So Jeff Plum played for Australia, played at the Sydney Olympics. He's from Canberra here originally. When I first came to Canberra, and when I first got introduced to this guy, Rob, it was in the tournament space, and he just taught me a lot. He was just a really good mentor, and just his character, again, just the loveliest guy who just seemed to remain calm under all situations. And even now, like when we have, when we've had big tournaments like the ACT Open last year, I said to Rob, I've got to have you like on the control desk with me. I can't, So just that's a supportive figure who taught me a lot. And then I sort of taught him stuff as well along the way. So we just had a really great, forged a really great friendship.
Awesome, Sam. And how about yourself, Jorel?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to draw from my passion for another sport, which is badminton, which, is something I don't get to play as often anymore, but was definitely something I was very into before table tennis, and alongside table tennis, I think, as well. But at university, it was mainly table tennis, and before that, it was badminton. But yeah, in the badminton space, I really admire sort of the four legends of badminton, if you will. That being
Lee Chong
Peter
Wei.
Gator, Lee Chong Wei, that's it,
Yeah,
Lindan,
Lindan.
who's the last one? Taufik Hidayat. I have his record over there, but I think what they're doing for the sport is amazing. If you haven't been keeping up with with badminton, but essentially Yonex has this program where it's the Legends Vision, led by these 4 people, supported by the federations, and they go to different countries showcasing the sport. I think badminton is facing a similar challenge as table tennis, where it's not really a recognized sport. It's sort of that thing, you wear a vest over and you play in the backyard for fun. So we're really, I guess the sport is really challenging that way, trying to re-image and rebrand. They're trying things with new shuttles, trying to attract people in an outdoor space. Having badminton played outdoors sounds unheard of, but they're trying to find new ways to make the sport interesting, similar to how, I guess, ITTF and all the different table tennis federations are, trying to revamp the sport in some ways to make it more a global presence. So I think they're succeeding. There's this sort of a following growing. It's definitely not as niche as it was a couple of years ago. It is an Olympic sport, so it shares a lot of the qualities and challenges that table tennis faces at this point. And I think what those 4, legends or really ambassadors of the sport have done, and there's many other players as well, sort of in that program, really trying to promote the sport. It's amazing what they've been able to do. They're setting up stadiums. They're providing, I know Peter Gator does like his personal coaching, in his academy. And Lee Chong Wei, I think, just recently opened like a sports stadium shop type thing.
He's like
so
a god in Malaysia.
Exactly. So he can do, pretty much do whatever they want. But I think what they've been able to do with their influence and power and give back to the sport, especially to the younger generations that might not have had access to the sport, is really inspiring. And I hope to see something similar happen to table tennis as well.
Awesome, Jorel. I'm going to give mine as well. I've got 3. All right, if people don't know, I love my sport. Other than table tennis, it's similar to Jorel. I have another sport that I'm very passionate about. I'm going to say it. I love my Australian rules footy. I love my AFL. I am a die-hard Collingwood fan, and I know that everyone's going to trash me for it because my team is not doing as well as we can. But there was one person on the Collingwood Football Club's team that I've always admired. There's 2. One of them just broke the Collingwood games record for being a captain. His name is Scott Pendlebury. I've actually met him in person, and when I met him in person, you can see why people regard him as one of the best captains of all time in the sport of AFL. So last week I was watching my team. So Collingwood was playing. Who were we playing? I'm so bad. I just went blank. But we were playing in Port Adelaide, and there was one young player named Jaden Stevenson, and he was dropped in the team a couple of times for poor form, and he's just made a really poor decision on the field. Normally, as a young player, so Pendlebury is very experienced. He's in his 30s, and then you've got someone as Jaden Stevenson who's only 21, 22 years of age. And he's just made a poor decision. He was running to the bench, almost in tears. He was sad. He was putting his head around like that. And then Scott Pendlebury comes to the bench and actually had vision of him, talking to him and explaining things to him, consolidating with him, saying, "Look, mate, you can make an impact now. Don't worry about one decision." That's one of the things that when I look up, and it was all talking on the news, and funny enough, that was his 314th AFL match, and he just broke the record as captain. He was cheered off the field as a legend. He will always be known as one of the greatest players of all time. My second is a table tennis one, and this one really inspired me when I watched the video. Her name is Chun Li. Chun Li. So
Yeah, I know.
she's very inspiring. She's 55 to almost 60 years of age, and she's going for Olympics. She's going for the Olympics for New Zealand. When I watched her story, she started off, she was one of the top players, not top in China. She knew in China you wouldn't be able to make it in because of the amount of competition in China, even in the 80s and 90s when it was growing, because in 1992 was the first year table tennis was inducted in the Barcelona Olympic Games. Everyone wanted to go. She eventually led New Zealand because she moved to New Zealand to coach, and she got offered a job in New Zealand to move from China, and she's grown the sport ever since. And she actually quit the sport in 2004 and then came back because she had that driven a passion. And then when I watched the video, there was a documentary, it was a 10-minute doco where she talked about it. And I don't know if I've got it on my screen at the moment. And her story is really inspiring because she's very similar to Rahul's story, where Rahul came back to the sport because of the coaching and the drive. And then she brought it back on the table. And then now she's training. She can beat anyone else. She'll probably destroy me 11-0. I'm going to be honest. I'll probably have a few moots and she'll just block them, and then I'm finished. And at her age, and you can see that she's driven, and as a leader of the sport and an ambassador, that's what you want. I've got another one. It's not related to table tennis. I could go on and on about this, but this is probably my favorite tennis player of all time, and it's Roger Federer. Roger Federer, Pete Sampras, we can go on and on about them, but Roger Federer has always inspired me. Not because he's like that passion and that ambassador for the sport of tennis, but the demeanor, the person that he was in his 20s he was very arrogant in his 20s. He was always angry, similar to Roddick, and all the way to, of course, the famous Nick Kyrgios. And of course, even Nick has grown. Nick has grown a lot since he's younger. He's 24, 25, and he's 21. But going back to Roger Federer, he was the same. He was an angry person. And then what did he do? He was really well driven. He passed Pete Sampras' records for most Grand Slams wins with 18 or 19, I'm pretty sure. No, it was 20, sorry. I think it would be pretty annoyed if I said 18, because that's I think Djokovic is on 18. But back to Federer, he's very driven. When he speaks on the court, he's very professional. He's very calm. He's very collective, and he's a role model to a lot of aspiring sports people, not only in the sport of tennis, but sports in general. And I think that's what has really, I resonate a lot. I try to resonate with them. I'm not the coolest head on the table, I'm going to be honest. I get really heated up and go, chole. But you think about those traits afterwards when you finish the game, and that's why they're famous sports people who have made an impact to sport in general. Did you guys have anything to add before we wrap it up? Anything that you guys, any sports people, anything that you guys want to add about leadership before we close the podcast up?
With the context to your podcast, Life After Graduation, in the present times, I think Sam can agree with me on this, because I have read a bit about this. When companies recruit, they actually look for people who were involved in sports during their time at uni, school and stuff, because they want people with those traits of discipline, dealing with pressure, adapting, teamwork. They need all those traits. People with all those traits, and the people who have played sports in their life, they have those. So if you're looking for even a job outside of sports, like in IT and stuff, these recruiters, they look for these traits. So with the context of your podcast, this will be relevant information.
Thank you, Rahul, for that.
Yeah.
You pretty much summed it up.
Definitely agree, Rahul. I can speak from when I landed my current job, when I got the call saying you've got the job, and I got some feedback about my interview and my application, and they said, we were so impressed by how much work you've done in table tennis. Like, you've just, so I'd have to say, if it wasn't for all the work that I've done through uni and the extracurricular activities and the skills that I learned, I probably wouldn't have landed where I am today. So it definitely helps. If you're currently at university, get out, join a club, join a society, do what you're passionate about, meet a diverse range of people, and do something, outside of your normal, just studying routine. It's all part of a balanced, I guess, life at uni.
Awesome. Well said, Sam. Anything to add, Jorel, as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying this for how many episodes now. A lot of the transferable skills that you do pick up at university are very applicable to work, no matter what the industry. Some maybe more so than others. But I think from personal experience, it is, important to have that well-roundedness. You do face a lot of challenges when you become involved in extracurriculars, in sports, in clubs, in societies. So it's important to pursue those. But also it shows, I guess, your future employer that you're capable of, tackling difficult challenges. And you do have a lot more to say in interviews when they ask you those behavioral questions. How did you tackle a problem? Name me a time when you faced a difficult situation, or had to deal with a difficult customer, which could be members of your, or like participants of an event. So it doesn't have to be strictly in the business or work sense. You can definitely speak towards your experiences if you're involved in clubs and sports. So I think, there's definitely a lot of benefit to that, and you develop a lot of these skills that you would otherwise not have had the opportunity to develop, or would later have to develop during your work. So it's important or it's probably better to have those skills already sort of chipped away at, or like refined, before you enter work and as soon as you graduate, because you've just become a more appealing employee and potential candidate to those employers. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to that.
To all the students who are watching this podcast, the only advice that I want to give to them is move out of your comfort zone. Stop limiting your uni life to just getting high, getting drunk, and watching Netflix. Join stuff, do stuff, explore yourself. You might not know what sort of skills that are you have, like, which is hidden. If you explore yourself doing different stuff, these things will come out. So that's the only advice.
And along the way, you get to meet amazing people that you would
you'll
otherwise
build
not
your
have
network.
Yeah, exactly. And that mutual connection, where you're sort of connected at, say, the sporting level, can translate into a job opportunity later on. Or maybe you need some help with something. Someone from another discipline for an assignment, or like at work. So it really doesn't. There's no really like cons to essentially being more active and more involved if you have the drive for it and time as well. So
100% agree. I like that, the way that you guys have summed it up. I don't have anything to add because we've all summed it up. But thanks for everyone for coming on to the podcast. It really means a lot. The podcast leadership series is all about getting all these leadership traits, and today we've actually really touched on not only about table tennis. Of course, we love our table tennis, and that's one of the traits, passion. And we've talked about passion, drive, goal setting, and also career, and also people who've aspired us to do what we do. So thanks for everyone for coming on board. And if you have any questions, please give us an email on ask.lifeaftergraduation@gmail.com. Links below in our description, or on our Facebook page or Instagram page. So thanks everyone, and thanks for coming on board. And for our viewers, see you in our next episode.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Alex.
Thanks,
All done.
Alex.
Everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.